Today we're going to be talking about how to mount a toilet. We're going to go over the plumbing that surrounds the toilet and how to avoid any issues that may come your way. Now, if you're going to be doing any kind of soldering, feel free to visit my video on how to solder properly. It's important that you don't have any leaks with your copper pipe. So we're going to go into talking about the water supply and where to locate that. And you want the height of your water supply to be above the trim baseboard. As shown in the picture on the right, you'll see that the trim baseboard is right in the middle of where our supply line is, and you want to make sure that your supply line is well above that. And for any standard baseboard, 6 inches should be good, but look into what kind of baseboard you have. Maybe you'll want to make it a little bit taller, but not too tall, because you don't want to interfere with the height of your toilet. And then also we need to go 6 inches from the center of the toilet to the left, and that is where you're going to want to put your toilet supply line. And make sure it's on the left, because most toilets have their water supply on the left side. And if you have any questions on how to install the angle stop or the shutoff valve, feel free to visit my video on how to do that. Now the next thing we're going to look into is the toilet flange and the drain. So the toilet drain, normally you're going to have a pipe that's going to be coming out of the ground, and that pipe needs to be cut flush against the ground, whether it's the finished floor or the subfloor. And it's very important that it's cut flush or beneath the floor, so then that way the toilet flange can be pushed all the way down flat up against the ground. And it's important that that sits flat, otherwise the toilet will wobble a little bit. So make sure that when you glue that in, you put lots of glue, you push it in, you step on it, and make sure it sits flat. And make sure that that flange ring is able to spin freely so that you can position it in the right place. So if you are going to be doing any kind of underground plumbing with the drain, or you have to move the drain, you want to make sure that your drain has a minimum of 12 inches from the back finished wall to the center of the toilet. And the toilet needs to have that minimum amount of space to sit in the center of the toilet and up against the back wall. Otherwise, the toilet will not fit. And 12 inches to the finished wall should fit any standard toilet. And you want to make sure as well that from the center of the toilet to the left and the right that you have a minimum of 16 to 18 inches for comfort, so that you're able to sit down comfortably. Now, some of the toilet flanges will have a cap with them, and you are going to have to break those out. I just want to let you know that as you're breaking those out, you want to be careful. You need to take a hammer and you're going to hit the center of that toilet cap out, and when it starts to become loose, you're going to want to get some channel locks or a screwdriver to pry it out or pull it out. So then that way you don't hit it with the hammer and it goes down the drain. So just be cautious of that as you're doing that. So now we're going to set our anchors and put on our wax ring. And I normally get the thicker wax ring. I find that it seals it much better and you're not going to have any leaks. So to set your anchors, you're going to take the bolt and you're going to put on the washer and screw on the nut, and you're going to want to screw that on pretty much all the way down to the bottom of the bolt. Then you're going to take your bolt head and you're going to slide it into the larger hole of the bolt slots, and then you're going to slide the bolt head down the slot, and you're going to do that on both sides, which each of your anchors. And once you put both of those in, you're going to hand tighten the nuts, and then make sure that each of your anchors are evenly distanced from the back wall. So if your center of your toilet is at 12 inches, you're going to want your anchors at 12 inches on both sides, so then that way your toilet will sit straight. Now we're going to take the wax ring, make sure that all of the outer plastic is peeled off, and then you're going to set that into the middle of the toilet flange as illustrated on the right. Now we can start putting together the toilet. Now it's pretty easy to put together the toilet and put on the toilet seat. The instructions should be in each of the boxes, so just make sure to find those and follow the instructions. Just one thing to look out for is when you're putting the tank on the toilet bowl, the spud washer that sits in between those two, that is what seals those two together. So it's very important that you make sure that spud washer is sitting flat up against the toilet tank and that it's being pressed down into the toilet bowl connection. So then that way you have a good tight seal, and you want to make sure that your nuts and bolts are evenly tightened down, and you want to make sure that your tank is sitting straight and that you cannot wobble it after you tighten it down. But just follow the instructions and it should be pretty easy from there. Now that you've put your toilet together, you're going to take the toilet and you're going to mount it onto the toilet flange. And how those two are going to be put together is those anchors, or the bolts that we had just put in on the flange, you're going to line those up with the mounting holes that are on the toilet. And then the wax ring needs to be pressed down against the toilet, so then that way it'll create a good seal. So make sure that you press down on the toilet, so then that way the toilet is sitting flat against the ground, so you got a good seal. So when you press down on the toilet, it's important that it's pressed down all the way. And if when you're testing it later on and you notice there's more leaks, you're going to need to get another wax ring. You're going to pull that toilet off, you're going to put the wax ring on top of the other wax ring, and then you're going to smush them both together, so then that way there is wax from the flange all the way up to the toilet, so then that way you have a nice clean seal. And the next thing you're going to do is tighten down the toilet, and you're just going to take a nut and a washer and you're going to tighten down the toilet on each side. Be sure to put the cap ring on before you put those two on. That is for your beauty cap that's going to go over the nut and the bolt. So make sure that those are on ahead of time. And once you have each of your nuts tightened down, you're going to lean on the toilet and kind of wobble it a little bit. See if there is any wobbling. If there isn't, then you're good. But if there is wobbling, you will need to get a toilet shim and locate the spot where it wobbles, and you're going to place that shim underneath there and then cut off the remainder of it so you can clean it off later. And make sure when you put the toilet on that it's sitting straight and it looks real good. Now you're going to put your water supply line on. All you're going to do is just hand tighten each of those, but the one end that is attached to the angle stop, you're going to want to get a wrench or channel locks, and you're going to just give that a quarter turn just so that it seals it all the way. You want to make sure you don't over tighten each of those, otherwise the rubber in there will flare out and it will cause it to leak. Now as you're testing the toilet, you're flushing it a bunch and seeing if there's no water coming out of the bottom or out of the water supply, you're going to put your beauty caps on, and if your beauty caps are unable to fit and clamp down, you need to get a hacksaw and you're going to need to cut off a little bit of the remaining anchor or the bolt, and so then that way that your beauty cap can sit on over the nut and the bolt to cover it all the way. Now if you've tested the toilet, it all looks good, there's no leaks, you're gonna now caulk down the toilet, and you're just gonna put a bead of caulking all the way around the base of the toilet, and that's just gonna seal it off from any bugs or dirt. And after you put that on, you're gonna get a wet sponge or a wet rag, and you're gonna wipe off any excess caulking around the toilet. But as you are wiping it down, you do want to make sure that you clean it up nice. You don't want to leave any excess caulking sitting around, and a lot of times when you're wiping it down, the cracks in the tile, sometimes the caulking will want to fan out into that. And so what you might want to do is just get a knife or a razor blade and just kind of scrape that caulking out of the crack, and that way it'll look like it's a nice straight bead line all the way around the toilet, just like as shown on the right side. And that's how you install a toilet. Now if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them below, and if you're going to be doing any other plumbing home improvements, just subscribe to me. I have many more videos that I'd like to share with you on how to do your plumbing correctly. And thanks for watching my video.